day for them. They got Coyle because they were willing to take Wood, and all of a sudden their bottom six is stronger, and Coyle can play in a lot of different places. So I don't think it's as bad a off-season so far as they think. The other thing too is they got Fabro signed, and once Fabro became a key part of their top four was really good. Still, we'll see what's going to happen in goal. It looks like Greaves and Merzlikins. Is everybody okay with that? But the fact is, Columbus's biggest challenge this year will be they're not going to sneak up on anybody. So they got to be ready to start the year.
One more thing on Columbus. Adam Fantilli is due for an extension as of now. Are you hearing anything about that being a priority over the next couple of months, or wait and see?
To be honest, Kyle, I have shut down for a couple of days, especially with the U.S. holiday weekend. I can't say that I've heard anything new. Why wouldn't they want to do it? To me, the question is, like, if you're Fantilli and you just broke through, unless the team's coming through with something massive, you might want to wait another year.
For sure. And it's, plenty of examples over the years of how that can benefit the player and why that would add urgency to the team to try to entice him to get something done sooner, because, man, did he, as the last year went on, more and more comfortable he got and more just like the player they hoped they were getting when they drafted him where they did. So it's kind of fitting that we go from Columbus to New Jersey, because they've got an important new contract to get done with Luke Hughes, Elliot. And you mentioned you shutting it down a little bit over the holiday weekend. Tom Fitzgerald suggested as much a few days ago. And then next week, the talks really start to get going in terms of getting Luke Hughes under a new deal. Is that the biggest thing going on in New Jersey right now in your mind?
That's still the biggest thing to come there. And I can't imagine that's going to be too problematic. They got Jack done pretty easily, all things considered. I'm assuming that, there's always grinding. I assume the Devils will do it. To me, the next biggest question for the Devils is Dougie Hamilton. He went from a full no move clause to a partial no trade. I'm just curious here to see what happens. They paid him his bonus on July 1st. I don't have a great feel for it in terms of percentage chances that anything occurs with him, but I know that his name was kind of out there a little bit, and I'd heard they've been talking to a couple of teams. So we'll see where that goes. I like the fact they kept Allen. He wanted to stay. Like, for me, some people were like 5 years. That doesn't bother me. I 5 times 1.8, you can handle that contract. And Allen Markstrom is a really good duo. That's a signing you make all the time. I like the Connor Brown ad. I kind of laughed about what happened with Cody Glass. Initially, they'd indicated he was not going to get qualified. And then there was so much interest in him, they said, you know what? Right-hand shot center, let's keep him. And they did. Works out for team and player. I even like the Dodonov signing. He's gonna get some big points for them. And I think Nemec, based on what I saw in the playoffs, I think he takes a big step next year. I still think the Devils need to get a bit meaner. I like Brown's attitude. He's got great attitude, just not a physically massive guy. I still want to see the Devils get a little bit nastier and meaner. But if they get the Hughes things done, it's a big offseason win for them.
And Fitzgerald was on with Marchese and Fuda, and he even hinted at, the first year under Sheldon Keefe, those first few months was just like a bit of a culture shock, he thought,
yes,
to some of the players in that room. And so maybe things are a little more settled in that regard when they pick back up again come September, October.
It's funny because I wrote that or said that at one point in the year, and somebody called me and was like, I'm glad you brought that up. Like, I think it's true. I think it was an adjustment, but not only for the players. I think the organization, like, Sheldon is such an intense guy. And Lindy Ruff was very laid back. Like, Lindy Ruff had been around, he'd seen everything, and he had some rules. Like, I think we talked about, like, the 3 rules he had, be on time, compete hard, like very wear a tie. I think it was something like that, like just very limited rules. And then you come into Keefe and like those eyes are bucking out all the time. I agree. I think that's a great point that you and Fitzgerald brought up. I think everybody next year will be much more ready for it. That's a good one.
Okay, the New York Islanders coming off the high of drafting Matthew Schaefer first overall after Noah Dobson was dealt to Montreal. Alexander Romanov gets an 8-year deal. The signing of Maxim Shabanov was an interesting one for me, Elliot, because this comes a year after they brought in Siplikov from Russia. So Shabanov, over 20 goals each of the last 2 years in the KHL. I mean, this is a team that for the last number of years has tried to find more scoring. And for a second straight year, they go to a free agent out of Russia to try to help with that.
And there were a lot of teams after that guy, like Philly in particular, was really disappointed they didn't get him. Like, I like them up front, Kyle. There's a lot of good players up front there. Like, like this team should be able to score. You know, Barzal's health is a key part of it. I'll tell you too, the interesting thing, there were a lot of rumors about Pajot. There was one team out there that was adamant the Islanders wanted to keep him. You know, one of their guys told me that every time there was a rumor out there, they would check in and the Islanders would say, nope, like, we're not doing it. So, like, the one thing is there's so many things that are so crazy at this time of year. You don't know if it's something's wrong, or it may be true for some teams and not true for other teams, or exactly what's out there. But this one guy was adamant to me that the Islanders liked their center depth and didn't want to do anything with it. You know, Drouin, I thought, like, the one thing that Darce was pretty clear about was, aside from Romanov, who's their own guy, he wasn't doing term. And I think Drouin had 2 years at $4 million. Patrick Waugh knows him really well. Like, I think the thing that Drouin's done that's very smart is the last couple of years, he put himself with Nathan McKinnon, who knew him really well. And now he's putting himself with Patrick Waugh, who knows him really well. And, you know, I think I think that's important. And I think that's a good signing. You know, the other thing too is, so on one of the previous pods, we talked about the Dobson deal, and that Columbus offered Voronkov, and they preferred the Montreal deal with Heineman. And
yes.
There was kind of the question was, you know, Dobson wanted to go to Montreal, but I heard the Islanders really wanted Heineman. And the reason was too, is that if you look at their history, they had that identity line, right? Well, Martin's gone and Clutterbuck's gone. Like, those are both great players, huge parts of that team who are now retired. They still have Cizikas. And I think they felt that Heineman could bring them a little bit of that. And they thought that was important for them. Like, Darce clearly had a plan. No term, short term, good fits. I like the Romanov extension. You know, signing Riddick